when you think about how many things FDA regulates, they regulate 25% of the gross national product of the US. And when you wake up in the morning, they regulate the toothpaste that you use to brush your teeth, the soap that you use to wash in the shower. And then when you get really sick and end up in the hospital, they regulate those drugs as well.
The FDA has grown ever cozier and cozier with these pharmaceutical companies that are developing new drugs. Rather than acting in the best interest of the public interest and public health, instead acts in the best interest of the companies that are submitting these applications.
And it's all a part of a system that is not built to benefit the people who it's supposed to serve, but is built to benefit the people who profit from it. That's what we have to change.
To understand the problems within the FDA, it is necessary to explain the process for drug approval.
FDA drug approval begins with a drug company that conducts clinical trials to test a drug to see if it is safe and effective for a particular disease.
First, a safety study in humans, and then a sort of expanded safety study with some effectiveness measures, and then a full efficacy study.
The company will then summarize information from those trials and submit it in an application to the FDA, and that's called a new drug application, or NDA.
After an NDA is submitted, FDA reviewers analyze the illness for which the drug is intended to treat and how the new drug compares to those already on the market. Then the FDA reviewers evaluate information submitted by the drug maker on the clinical benefits and risks of the drug. Finally, the FDA reviewers determine strategies that can be used to manage the risks of the drug.
FDA does not approve drugs for use in clinical practice. What they really do is they approve drugs for marketing.
In the 80s, pharmaceutical companies and patients were outraged at the FDA's slow and inefficient drug approval process. Their frustration culminated in 1992 when the 102nd Congress under Bill Clinton passed PDUFA, the Prescription Drug User Fee Act, a bill which authorizes the FDA to collect fees from companies that produce certain human drugs and biological products. In many people's eyes, PDUFA has allowed for the growth of the FDA.
These fees are essential to our efforts to improve drug safety. Failure to pass this legislation will put drug and medical device approval at a standstill.
To others, PDUFA has encouraged negligence and inappropriate influence from pharmaceutical companies over the FDA.
The fees have steadily grown to the point that they now fund close to 2/3 of the FDA center that reviews and approves new drugs.
Essentially, pharmaceutical companies are now funding the very organization which is supposed to regulate them.
Once the drug companies are funding the office that is approving drugs, there is going to be influence on that approval.
Because of sort of these shortened time periods for review, often FDA experts who are doing the review are pressured to make decisions faster. They may decide not to ask for additional data.
PDUFA is reauthorized every 5 years so that the people's issues can be heard and addressed. However, the people aren't the only ones involved in the conversation. The FDA also holds private and secret meetings with many stakeholders, a majority of which are pharmaceutical companies, lobbying groups, and pharmaceutical-influenced consumer advocacy groups.
The Prescription Drug User Fee Act is now in its 6th iteration. It's coming up.
It becomes must-pass legislation by Congress. And what that does then is create an opportunity for high-paid lobbyists for the pharmaceutical industry to lobby for other provisions to be attached to the user fee legislation. PDUFA has really undermined the agency's oversight of new drugs.
The major problem is that the drug companies have a say in what that money's going for. The focus on quantity and speed has really come at the expense of quality and getting better drugs to patients.
You want drugs to be adequately tested before they come on the market, not just be approved faster.
The FDA, Congress has decided, does not have a standard that a new drug has to be better than anything else that's on the market. Most antibiotics are approved by FDA by allowing them to be 10 to 20% worse than the drug that's already on the market.
A lot of drugs are approved based on changes in biologic markers that may or may not make a difference in how a patient feels, how a patient functions, or whether a patient survives.
That standard needs to change.
Our federal government must begin creating effective solutions and implementing changes in our policies which will no longer undermine public health. Although this topic may seem large and at times insurmountable, there are actually a myriad of ideas that, if put into place, could help to solve this issue.
You need an independent group of people who don't have a conflict of interest to review the information.
And we think there should be a firewall between those two groups, the group that advises prior to submission and the groups that are going to ultimately review and make decisions on approval.
We need to change the evaluation of drugs to require comparative effectiveness studies.
Appropriate more tax dollars to the agency, assuring that the agency makes decisions that are independent and not corrupted, that there is substantial evidence that the drugs work and are safe. That's how we build public confidence and can be assured that the drugs that come to market are safe and effective for everyone.